Sacred family, fellow travelers into the beyond, this week, starting April 22nd through April 27th, our sacred sun, our beingness, moves us into the light of the 27th ICHING, named Providing Nourishment, Thunder Under the Mountain, Attend to the People's Needs, which activates the grounding force of the earth. What we see, the 28th I Ching, named Preponderance of the Great. The lake rises above the trees, a need for action. The cosmic dance that brings your awareness, your focus on providing care, nurture, and nourishment to the world around you while maintaining self-care, healthy boundaries. Offering you an opportunity, a sacred mirror into a higher truth, a chance to meet a part of yourself in a deeper way, to respond imaginatively, to evolve, to rise higher. So this week, we all have a chance to consciously meet and transform the shadow state of selfishness and purposelessness. An opportunity to hold that part of yourself in loving awareness and rise into your generous spirit and embrace the totality of your humanity. So how compassionate are you with yourself, the body and its needs? How do you spend your most precious commodity of all, your time, the sacredness of your presence? This week's cosmic dance brings the energy of caring, nurturing, and nourishment. At the highest expression, it's the energy of compassion for yourself, for others, for the environment, for the world, but also a reminder that self-care comes first. Last week's energy may have revealed the inner corruption, the disharmony in beginnings, the difficulties in the beginning of new beginnings. We're all moving through major life endings and new beginnings, which naturally brings up fear of letting go, of uncertainty, of the unknown. This week's cosmic weather activates the shadow state of selfishness and purposelessness. And what a great question to contemplate. What does it mean to be selfish? And what is our purpose? And how do we find the balance between what is right and good for ourselves and what is right and good for others? And this is the dilemma of this shadow, the dilemma of consideration. When we're in survival mode, it's not easy to consider others. The pain, the restlessness inside, the fear doesn't leave much room for others. And this shadow is about being stuck in a tight life, in a tight frame of mind. So many of us would love to give more. We would love to consider others, but we don't have enough for ourselves yet. That is how the thinking goes. When I have enough, then I'll be able to help others. And that is how people see philanthropy and charity as a luxury only for the very wealthy. But there are many forms of giving. This week's energy is all about giving, all the many forms of giving, caring, and nurturing. Selfishness on its own is not bad. To look after yourself first is vital. It's essential. How can you give others if you don't nurture yourself first? It's an essential part of the healing to love yourself enough and not to give from an empty cup. So it's more about how and why we give. And that's the question we have to ask ourselves. How can I best serve the higher purpose in this situation? And that's the golden question. It's not how can I best serve myself. It's how can I best serve the higher purpose in this situation? And those two questions often result in very different answers. This whole notion of higher purpose is deeply connected to the theme of selfishness. The shadow state of purposelessness is the manifestation of the great dilemma of avoidance. We're all stuck in survival mode because we've all been avoiding the deepest fear of all, the fear of death, the meaning of our mortality. So the first dimension of this frequency is the fear of living. This is the repressed side of the fear. And we can't really live fully without embracing the shadow state. Most people on the planet are either a victim of their circumstances, whether it's poverty, disease, or war, or in more developed countries, they're a victim of the system. And the system includes all the institutions that create homogenization, that make us all the same. On a collective level, the notion of life purpose only comes alive when life no longer is concerned with survival. So at the shadow state, survival gives you a powerful purpose. It has its own purpose. So this shadow state operates in different dimensions depending on your culture, geography, and your social status. And the next layer of this shadow inside us is the fear of dying. So first we have the fear of living out of survival mode, and now we're at the fear of dying. The fear of dying is when it hits us that life is unfulfilling. This classically happens around midlife, around 40s. It usually comes as an unconscious panic, which can create sudden reaction inside us, a depression, affair, a divorce, which can lead to all kinds of life situations. This is the risk-taking element of purposelessness. So at this frequency, we still remain a victim of the fear. Even if we're playing it out externally, we either repress the fear or we react to the fear. And this word avoidance, the dilemma of the shadow state of purposelessness, is really avoid dance. So until we learn to see the fear for what it is, meet it face to face in loving awareness, to hold the totality of your humanity with nurture, with care, regardless what seems to be happening externally, we're simply dancing around in the void. When we confront this deep unconscious fear of death, buried within our DNA, which comes with our vehicle, the human body, a memory code embedded in our brain, all fears lead to this fear. They emanate from this fear. So when we meet that part of us, that deep unconscious fear, with love, with nurture, with care, over time, we raise the frequency field around our aura, and suddenly something remarkable happens. The fear is no longer there. It's gone. The body itself is not afraid to die. Only the ego is afraid to die. And that's when we begin for the first time to live, and I mean really live, this higher frequency life, a different kind of life. We then move into the fear of not living, which is a healthier fear. It's the path of living life fully, living totally, holding nothing back. You see, our religious structures are in a decline, and we've become even more self-centered. And religion gave us a sense of higher purpose, even though in an unhealthy way, if you ask me. You see, they tell us what our higher purpose is, instead of letting us find out for ourselves. Big difference. And on top of that, nowadays, unfortunately, children are put under such great pressure, and many are in school from the age of 4. And this pressure is also in the social fabric of the home. You see, the modern child is groomed as a consumer child, a child that learns more about taking than giving. So we come into the world unselfish, but we are schooled in selfishness. And that is because of the way we built our society. And that is why we need to learn consideration, to consider the feelings of others, to know deeply that we're interconnected with everything and everyone on this beautiful planet. A selfish act harms the whole, which harms yourself. You see, generosity is human nature. If there's any quality that defines a true human being, it's generosity. And your gift, your generous spirit, is equivalent to how deeply you can feel your higher purpose. So how do we unlock higher purpose? How do we discover it? Since you don't really have a society that encourages it. It's why so many modern people are searching for something, feeling numb, feeling empty inside, because it's lacking in our civilization. But we're at a tipping point, a turning point in our collective story. So this week, we all have a chance to consciously meet in loving awareness the shadow state within you and in the world around you. But this time to respond imaginatively, to allow, to accept, to receive whatever shows up with care, with nurture, with love, a turning point in rising into your generous spirit. Joseph Campbell, the great mythologist, once said, "I don't believe people are looking for the meaning of life as much as they're looking for the experience of being alive, the path of living life totally, holding nothing back, being present in the moment where life is lived." The idea, the question, what is my purpose, is a phase that dissolves over time. And that phase actually gets in the way of living, experiencing being alive. So there comes a point in our evolution when we let go mentally of the need to know our purpose, of trying to figure out, trying to solve, trying to make sense, and we begin to move into actually living it, becoming the witness of the great mystery. True purpose, true fulfillment always contains an aspect of service. When we crack open the dilemma of avoidance and consideration, we naturally begin to unlock deep wisdom, opening our sacred heart, that cellular certainty, the inner knowing that there's so much more to life than survival. We naturally start to consider the impact of our actions to the world around us, the environment, the creatures that we share this beautiful planet with. An unselfish attitude that comes from knowing with every cell of our being the interconnectedness of all things, all of life. You don't have a life, you are life itself. Our radiance emerges, our health blooms. We begin to glow with the aura of generosity. There is no tonic in the world like unconditional giving. There is no power greater than generosity. Giving of yourself out of the joy, the innocence of your sacred heart, out of the generosity of your inner being. That is true power. Giving releases the vibration of healing, healing you and healing the world that you see. So consider finding something that deeply nourishes your spirit. Then love yourself enough to make room for it in life, in your day-to-day. Embodying the spirit of generosity, being full of joy, will nourish the world around you in the highest way. There are so many ways to nourish yourself and others. Good food, big hugs, kind words, and a loving listening ear. The composer of an inspiring piece of music provides nourishment to humanity by caring deeply enough to offer and share his or her gifts, their creative expression with the world. So how do your thoughts shape and nurture your experience of life? Can you contemplate, look inside yourself to see if your thoughts affect what's happening outside of yourself? Do your thought patterns focus on the belief that life is happening for you or against you? By bringing your loving awareness to those thought patterns, they begin to dismantle on their own. What we think about, where we focus our attention, colors the environment we meet. You may think that you need a lot to give it away, but externally you can have nothing and be the most generous person alive. Generosity is about how we spend our most precious commodity of all, your time, the sacredness of your presence. So I invite you to contemplate this powerful question. How do you spend your time? How compassionate are you with yourself, with the body, with the environment, with all the creatures, with the world around you? Giving and receiving is the physical manifestation of your breathing patterns. Giving releases the vibration of healing, healing you, healing the whole. We come with no self, we leave with no self. So the self in the middle is an illusion. A selfless human being is a cosmic being. He or she has access to the infinite possibilities. Selflessness isn't interested in itself. Its only wish is to serve the whole, following the natural impulses of oneness, of the one sacred heart, to give, to love. We come with everything. We leave with everything. We live for everything. Remember, love yourself and choose to be blessed.